Let's talk about planting in July. So July is a great time to plant bush beans. If your beans have fizzled out or if you haven't even planted them yet, now's a great time to start bush beans, even pole beans. Those are some great options because they're both quick growing and they're very productive. Beans love the warmth, so they should grow pretty quickly right about now. I can't believe it's already July. If you haven't already started your garden, it's definitely not too late. You can start now. You can start some quick maturing varieties. Like I said, pole beans, bush beans, those are great options because they mature quickly. Squash is another option because at this time the soil is perfectly warm and squash grows quickly. Some varieties grow in 40-45 days. Others might take 50 to 60 days. But nonetheless, you'll definitely get a harvest before the end of the summer. Tomatoes you can plant as well. You'll want to look for varieties that will mature in the time frame that you have left. So because it's July and my first frost date is October, I have at least 2 months. So that's a whole 60 days. You want to look for varieties that will mature within that time frame, but it's definitely possible. Some more options would be the root vegetables. You can do radishes, beets, carrots. All of those things will grow well in the summer. And you also want to start thinking about your fall garden. If you haven't already, you can start brassicas indoors and have them ready as transplants to go out in your garden in August, September sometime. Kale is great for cooler temperatures and it tolerates light frost, so it's a great option for fall harvests. And you can be planting some lettuces now, but you want to make sure that you are concentrating on heat tolerant varieties. Some herbs that you can be planting are cilantro. Cilantro you can succession plant just about every 2 weeks because cilantro bolts very quickly in the heat, so you'll definitely want to keep your supply up. Dill is another one similar to cilantro. The success depends on the weather conditions. Basil can still be planted in July. In this video, I'll be planting some red robin basil as well as some holy basil. I have yet to get holy basil to grow in my garden. Sweet corn is another one you can plant. You plant corn in stages so that you have a continuous harvest throughout the summer. Cucumbers. Cucumbers are a great one. They thrive in the warm weather. They can be grown vertically on trellises, or you can do container and bush varieties that don't need a trellis or a lot of space. So beans, cucumbers, squash, kale, lettuce, tomatoes, beets, carrots, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, those brassicas you can start indoors, sweet corn, all of these things can be direct sown, where you are pulling out things or harvesting different plants. You can be succession planting with some of these other things to keep a continual harvest. Sunflowers also thrive in the summer heat as well as attract lots of pollinators. Some vegetables like beans and lettuce you can plant every 2 weeks. Radishes, carrots, you can do those things. The cilantro and dill, you can be planting those things every 2 weeks. That way when your first plants start to bolt, you'll have fresh plants coming up. Now, some tips for planting in July. You want to choose the right varieties. You want to select varieties that are heat tolerant or bolt resistant. A specific variety will have that on the label or on the package or in the description. It'll definitely point out those things about the variety, that it is heat tolerant or bolt resistant, especially for lettuce and other leafy greens. So I just harvested a Webb's Wonderful lettuce that was a heat tolerant lettuce. I was trying it out for the first time and it definitely performed well. We had a stretch of 100-degree days, and that lettuce, I'm telling you, that lettuce did not bolt. It stayed crisp, it stayed crunchy, and it did very well. So that Webb's Wonderful, it's an heirloom variety, and it is definitely a winner in my book. You want to provide shade for your heat sensitive plants like lettuce, especially during the hottest part of the day. So when you're succession sowing these things like carrots and things, and it's hot, it's July and August, that heat is scorching. You want to try to succession plant under some shade. That could be shade cloth, or it could definitely be in between or underneath large leaves like zucchini leaves or squash leaves, cucumbers, or different plants you might have growing, and you might find a small shady spot in between plants that lettuce or carrot or radish would grow well. So that's just something to consider. You want to definitely water regularly. You have to keep the soil consistently moist because it is hot. Carrots especially. So with carrots, they don't like to be planted deep. Lettuce does not like to be planted deep. They really like to be like very, very lightly sown. So maybe some crushed leaves, or with carrots, there's a trick that you can use where you put a board on top of it just to keep the soil underneath it shaded and moist and give those seeds a good chance to germinate. You definitely want to monitor for pests and diseases. So the little white moth that flies around and attacks the leafy greens. If you're starting fresh leafy greens, definitely give those leafy greens some protection, whether it be a shade cloth or an insect netting, some type of protection, or start those things indoors or perhaps in a sunroom or a greenhouse where it's well ventilated and they can have some protection from the insects. Another great leafy green to try is Swiss chard. If you haven't already, Swiss chard grows very well in the heat as well as the cold. Swiss chard is a very, very good performer, and it's got a wonderful flavor. It doesn't get bitter in the heat. It's much like a spinach. When your spinach is bolting, you can definitely plant Swiss chard and still get a leafy green harvest. So definitely consider Swiss chard as an option. So I hope you found this video informative and helpful. And until next time, the more you know, the more you grow. Bye, guys.